Hi everyone, this is Miss French. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about how to peer review a piece of correspondence and the sorts of things that I would discuss or comment on were I completing a peer review. This is a letter, the Persuasive Claim letter that was written a few semesters ago, and the scenario was that you, as a purchasing agent, had ordered some chairs for the office conference room, which was being remodeled. Unfortunately, when you placed the order, you accidentally entered the wrong SKU number. So when the chairs arrived, they were the wrong color. To make things worse, the chairs that you ordered were on sale because they were being discontinued and all sales were final. So you're kind of in a jam. Your boss has come to you and is very upset. The chairs that came in were brown and they should have been black, and they don't match um, the decor at all. And so you have to persuasively claim Winchester Furniture to hopefully replace the black chairs or the brown chairs with the black chairs. So that's the premise of this letter. So I'm going to review this. I'm just going to begin at the top. Um, this was a letter. You all had to write emails, but for a letter, you always have to have letterhead, and she does. She has the company name, address, city, state, zip, phone numbers, fax numbers. She also includes the company website, which is perfectly fine. The only problem is she needs to remove the hyperlink. Another problem with this letter is that there is no date. And in business writing, and indeed in all writing, we must date our correspondence. Now, for the emails that you are doing, those come date stamped, so you don't need to add it. But if you were writing a letter, you would want to put the address, the date right here, and we spell the date out. So you skip a couple of spaces from your letterhead, you'd add the date. So let's say February the 11th, 2017, all written out. And then you skip another space or two before the inside address. Now this inside address looks pretty good. However, she should have included the reader's title. We always do that in business prose. It is simply a sign of respect. So this should be Ms. We do not know if she's married or not. And if you don't know whether a person is married or not, then you should default to Ms. So this should be Ms. Danielle Connors, Winchester Furniture on Broadway Street in Conroe. And then the greeting is correct, Dear Miss Connors. We drop the first name from the greeting. The punctuation is incorrect. It technically should be a colon rather than a comma, um, although that's not that big of a deal, but still. Okay, then we should have a beginning that orients the reader and in very general terms states the nature of the claim. She says, My name is Roberta Johnson, and I am the purchasing agent for Henderson Market Research. Recently, I placed an order for new chairs for our executive conference room. You were generous enough to give us a substantial discount for the chairs because they were being discontinued. Okay, so this is good, but it needs a little bit of work. There is there's no mention of what the problem is in general terms. So this concluding sentence could be a little different. Perhaps instead of this sentence, she could say something like, Unfortunately, the chairs arrived today and they are the wrong color, or something along those lines. I also have a little bit of a problem with her using you, although you does make this a little less formal. It says, You were generous enough to give us a substantial discount for the chairs. Maybe Winchester Furniture was generous enough to give us a substantial discount for the chairs. Um, the you kind of sounds like she spoke to Miss Connors when she placed the order. And then that is kind of problematic because I would think that if you had placed the order with Miss Connors, then you wouldn't be in the situation that you're in. So I think that this concluding sentence needs to be revised. And then in the middle, and this is where the story of what happened is supposed to be. I tell students they should write those stories more or less in chronological order. And you need to analyze this a little bit better. What does Miss Connors need in order to verify your claim and to process it? This simply says when the chairs arrived, we discovered that they weren't the color that we wanted, and then it backtracks a little bit. Um, I think it would have been wise to begin with on September the 1st. I placed an order for 20 chairs that, for our office, for our conference room that's being remodeled. I would have elaborated a little bit more on why we wanted the chairs. And in part, I would do that because as a persuasive appeal, it's helpful for the reader to know that these chairs were really important. They weren't just, chairs for the office, and it's okay if they're black or brown, it doesn't really matter. These were chairs for the conference room, and they needed to be coordinated, and obviously they were not, and that's the problem. So back up, tell the story in the chronological order of when it began. Then she says, I reviewed the purchase order and I realized I selected the SKU number for brown chairs instead of black chairs. Now, I understand what she's saying. However, a purchase order is typically an internal document, so it would have been written by Henderson Market Research for Henderson Market Research. It probably would not have gotten sent to Winchester Furniture. So I think what she meant is the invoice or the sales receipt. I reviewed the invoice or the sales receipt and I realized that I selected the SKU number for brown chairs instead of black. I think so. Selected sounds like there was a drop down menu, and maybe there was, and she simply selected the wrong SKU number, which I guess could have happened. Um, I would probably be tempted to say that I typed in the wrong SKU number because a typo is easy to make. Maybe I entered 12345 and I should have entered 12346. And then that also is another appeal, if you will, because anybody can make a mistake like that, and even Miss Connors could understand that. So I think there's a few things that I would do to make my appeal a little stronger, or that Roberta should have done to make her appeal stronger. And she says, I realize that all sales of discontinued merchandise are final, but I am requesting an exception. I'm requesting that you make an exception, perhaps would be better wording. Our executive management uses this conference room, just this conference room, but we don't know what conference room she's talking about, and certainly Miss Connors doesn't know. So be careful of, this and that and they and them. Troublesome words if they don't reference anything. So um, again, had she, in the story of what happened, explained that these chairs were special order for a conference room that was being remodeled, then this conference room, perhaps that reference would be okay. At any rate, our executive management uses this conference room frequently for internal and external customers. I felt like internal and external customers is not necessary. Why not just say for meetings with customers? And what other is there besides internal and external? And what are internal customers? So I just think that's probably troublesome phrasing. And then she says, the black chairs will complement the current decor better than brown. Well, when you say the black chairs, that's like referencing a very specific set of black chairs. We don't know what those are. So maybe black upholstery will complement the current decor better than brown, or chairs that have black, I don't know, black chairs will complement the current decor better than brown, something along those lines. The problem is with the reference to the. And then she says, the chairs we currently have are over 20 years old and long overdue to be replaced. That's good, but again, had she begun with a reference to the conference room and it being made over, and then she could easily say the chairs we currently have are over 20 years old, then that would fit better. As it is, it just feels kind of stuck on. So I would definitely tell Roberta to create the backstory, give it to Miss Connors, and include that in it. Okay, for her conclusion, this is where we need to ask for whatever it is that we want the reader to do. Due to the history of our working relationship, I really hope you will accommodate this request. I'm not sure what the history of our working relationship is. Perhaps due to uh, the long-standing relationship between our companies, perhaps, or maybe elaborate on that a little bit more. I don't know. Perhaps Henderson Market Research has ordered all of its furniture from Winchester Furniture, but I think that might be a little bit more explored a little bit more. Due to the history of our working relationship, I hope you will accommodate, maybe can instead of will. I hope you can accommodate this request. I am willing to provide any information you may require. We value our long-standing relationship with Winchester Furniture and hope you can service any future furniture needs. So a couple of things about that. She's not very specific about what she wants. Do you want the chairs exchanged? Who's going to pick them up? How is that going to happen? What can she do to help facilitate this change and make it easy for Miss Connors to say yes? Perhaps Henderson Market Research is willing to pay any additional shipping costs that might be incurred. Perhaps they are willing to, I don't know, deliver the brown chairs that are still plastic wrapped, so that Winchester doesn't have to send out another truck. I'm not, I think there are other things that you can do to facilitate the exchange, and I think that you should do those, because in the business world, anything that we can do to sweeten the pot, especially if it's not going to cost us much or anything, we should do. And in this case, Winchester Furniture has absolutely no uh, reason other than to make you happy that they would do this. And their final sales was very clear on this product. So I think the pot needs to be sweetened a little bit more. I'm not sure what she means by I'm willing to provide any additional information you require. Remember, in business prose, especially when you're writing a letter like this, the goal is to provide everything that the reader needs the first go around. You do not want to have continued back and forth conversation. Like, well, what was the SKU number? Well, here's the SKU number. You don't want that back and forth. Instead, you go ahead and provide it now. That's the purpose of the middle section. And the last sentence, we value our long-standing relationship with Winchester Furniture and hope you can service any future furniture needs, is okay. I probably wouldn't say it because I feel like there's a little bit of a veiled threat there, and we really want to avoid that. Winchester Furniture did nothing wrong. The fault is entirely yours. So I would probably replace that. And I always include my contact information in the concluding paragraph and encourage contact. So perhaps please contact me upon receipt of this letter so that we can, work together to resolve this issue. My number is 555-1212. I look forward to hearing from you. Something along those lines. Now, the reason that I have highlighted sincerely is simply because there should only be one space between the final paragraph and the closing. And the reason that I have marked through Henderson Market Research is because we only need to put our title immediately beneath our name. The company name is up here in the letterhead, so we do not add it again when we're writing letters. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful to you. I am happy to review any of your work. If you want to come by the office, I can give you a complete peer review. If you have specific questions about your own draft, you can insert them into your document and send that to me via email. Those questions need to be pretty specific. Remember, I have several sections of this course, so I cannot read them all and offer complete feedback to everybody. However, specific questions I can answer pretty quickly. If you would like to volunteer for me to review your document for the entire class, please send it to me at french@uhcl.edu. I would appreciate it, and I know your classmates would too.